Thank you for joining me for another 5 good minutes with the Word. I'm Barry Bryson. We're continuing our series entitled Recommended Reading, and I would like to recommend that you read Song of Solomon. Um, Song of Solomon is not like anything else in all of human literature. It is a singularity in the history of human literature. It's a married, very passionate love song between people who are newly married, maybe even from their engagement to the period of time when they are newly married. If I was to ask you what book in the Bible uses the word agape more than any other, you would probably answer Gospel of John, First John. That would be a good guess for the New Testament. But in the middle part of the 4th century BC, sometime in the 350s BC, Ptolemy II commissioned at least 70 rabbinic scholars to come to the great library in Alexandria. He ruled from Egypt, the great library in Alexandria, and make a definitive translation of the Hebrew Old Testament into Greek. And when they did this, they had a palette of words to use for the word love. Hebrew only has one word for love, ahav, as English only has one word for love, but the Greeks had several. Eros, the passion, the physical passion, the that kind of love. Phileo, the family love, it means really more than that. Storge, the connection between people as closer than family. They had and then agape, which before the rabbis used it was basically just an intensifier. It was a rarely used word, but they chose it judiciously to describe a certain kind of love. The love Abraham had for Isaac, the love David had for Jonathan, the love God has for us. And the book which uses agape more than any other book in the Bible is Song of Solomon, more than 40 times. Agape and agapetos, love and beloved, are used in the book. It's a difficult book in some ways. It's not always clear whose voice is speaking. We have two beloved. We have the husband, the wife, the bride, the groom, the boyfriend, the girlfriend, we have the two, the man and the woman who love each other. We have a chorus of women or sisters who speak, and there seems to be another voice, perhaps the voice of the king. It's called the Song of Songs, the greatest song ever written, and in a way it is. And it's dedicated to Solomon. I don't think it's written by Solomon. I think it's written during his reign and dedicated to him. Um, and that's a bittersweet thing to think about because, as we pointed out last time when we looked at Ecclesiastes, he didn't have his one beloved. He had 1,000 women, wives, and 700 wives and 300 concubines, but not one love of his life. The way Jacob loved Rachel, the way Isaac loved Rebekah, he didn't have one love of his life, the way Ruth loved Boaz. He just didn't. Or excuse me, I should have said the way Boaz loved Ruth. He didn't. But that's what this book is about. These are two young people who love each other, who are intoxicated pheromonically with each other, who are besotted in every way, body and soul, bewitched, overwhelmed by each other. And if you can remember being a young person and and feeling this way about your beloved, I think this is very familiar to you. The two main voices are the bride and the groom, the girlfriend and the boyfriend, and they talk to each other and express their love for each other. The girl, the female voice, speaks about twice as much as the male voice does, and uses the words love and beloved about twice as much as he does. The woman's voice is perhaps the greatest voice in all human literature. I mean, she just tells us absolutely everything. She tells us the things she feels, the things she thinks, the longing that she has for him. She tells us her dreams, her nightmares. Um, she tells us about the physical sensations that he gives her, the way he makes her feel about herself. I mean, there's nobody in all of literature really just lets us see them and who they are in the moment the way she does. He's the same way. I mean, he tells us a lot, but not quite as much. Mostly when he talks, he describes what she looks like. Um, you know, and talks about, and there's a cool place. Let me see, what was I looking at, and I think it's in chapter 7. Yeah, chapter 7, verses 1 through 5, where he starts with her feet and he goes all the way up to her head and talks about all of her body parts and how awesome they are, which is basically what he does most of the time. How beautiful are your feet in sandals, O princess daughter, and then the curves of your hips, and then he goes all the way up. We won't talk about all the other parts in between. To your head, crowns you like Carmel, flowing with flocks. Your flowing locks of your head are like purple threads. And he talks about how beautiful her hair is. Anyway, it's like he starts at her feet and he goes all the way up from her feet to her head. Talk about how gorgeous she is. Um, I want us to look at chapter 6 just to get a flavor of what we're talking about between the two of them. Um, well, let's begin with chapter 6, verse 2. The chorus of women ask the bride, "Where is your beloved gone?" My beloved has gone down to his garden, to the beds of balsam, to pasture in the gardens and gather lilies. I think that might be a metaphor for something. And then we have verse 3, along with chapter 12, chapter 8, verse 6, are really the themes of the book. Chapter 6, verse 3 says, I am my beloved, and my beloved is mine, he who pastures among the lilies. I am my beloved, and my beloved is mine. It's just a beautiful, unending circle of a statement, poetic statement, and it is singular. I have one beloved, and he has one beloved. That's why Solomon couldn't have written this, because he didn't have a beloved. He had 1,000 women, but he didn't have a single beloved. This is a paean. This is a glorification, a hymn of praise to a monogamous relationship between a man and woman who just absolutely enjoy each other, body and soul. And then the man speaks, You are as beautiful as Tirzah, my darling, as lovely as Jerusalem, as awesome as an army with banners. Why would he say that? Talking to her about being awesome, overwhelmingly awesome. It's because the way she loves him. It's so intense. Listen to what he says next. Um, Turn your eyes away from me because they overwhelm me. He cannot, when she looks at him, everything she feels about him, everything she sees in him, he can't, it overloads his components. They're too much, you know, her, everything she feels is too vast for him to contain, let alone comprehend. And he says, don't gaze too intently at me. It's overwhelming, and then he diverts his gaze away from her eyes to start talking about all of her other body parts. Anyway, um, it's 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 um it's just gorgeous. It's just intoxicating to read. It really is. It really puts you, if you're an old guy like me, back in that moment when you yourself were pheromonically intoxicated with your beloved, when you were just absolutely besotted and bewitched, body and soul, with someone else that you devoted your life monogamously to, and happy to do it because you were completely overwhelmed by not only her beauty but by just the intensity, the bigness of her feelings, the how awesome she is. It's just that way. Why is it in the Bible? Where else would it be? God invented this. This is what made creation complete. And this is the relationship that all of society, all of culture has tried to distort. And it was being distorted at this time. Solomon had 300 wives 700 wives and 300 concubines, but not one beloved. That's why this is necessary. I am my beloved, and my beloved is mine. let's end this with the true theme verse of the whole book. Put me like a seal over your heart, like a seal on your arm, because agape is as strong as death. That's the message. That's the message. The strongest force in the world is agape love. It's agape love, and that's what they feel for each other. And um, it has completely overwhelmed them. The things they feel for each other. It has to be in this book because it's central to God's plan for us, for we humans on this planet, we who are the beloved ourselves of God. Okay. Thank you for joining me for another 5 good minutes with the Word. Next time, I'm going to recommend to you the great salvation epic in the Bible, the book of Isaiah. We'll talk about that next time. Thank you for joining me.